Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Yeah. So our jinx, we went about 3-4 weeks there with no problems. Finally got jinxed. Well, you know what we want for Christmas, folks, and that's a working software. We will work to have that working by the time we get back from the new year. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com. Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville, where we're live streaming on a new stream, which reminds me, we should probably make sure that looks operational. We're also periscoping for the first time. We've now just started another Periscope stream, so I apologize to all of you who tuned in going, hey, what happened? We are up and running, I promise you that. So join us. We'll try and answer your questions as best we can. Now talking about another team that's a little bit off the radar, or under the radar a little bit, but off to a program start, and this is what I like. It's when SIDs or whomever it was, I never got the answer. Somebody contacted and said, hey, you know, you should talk about our team. Manhattanville's off to its best start in program history, 8-0. Just had another 1,000-point score, by the way. You really should talk to us. And I said, you know what? You're right. We should. And so we will. Because it's another team in the Freedom Conference that we haven't really had a chance to talk about. FDU Florham has dominated this conference for a number of years. That no longer is the case. DeSales has certainly been in that conversation. That's still the case. They're having a pretty darn good season. But Manhattanville may shake things up. So joining us live via the Skype window, which we're proud to say, is Kate Vlahakis. Coach, did I say the name right?
You did. You got it.
Win-win for me, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the program. Thank you for taking the time. Again, 8-0 start, 2-0 in conference. Those 2 wins in conference over Del Val and Wilkes in your last 2 games by, I'm doing the quick math, 11 and, 23. You got to be feeling, I mean, obviously you're feeling good about how this season started because this is darn good.
Yeah, we're game by gaming, to be honest. Pretty young team, playing a lot of freshmen and sophomores, predominantly 1 senior. So, didn't know where we were going to be at this point in the year. The MAC is super strong, as you said. Really, really good team. It's been like that since I've been in it. So it's always a dog fight. But, to beat Del Val at Del Val is a hard win. Wilkes is always in there. So it never gets easier. So I'm good with them right now. A lot of youth, some mistakes, but, definitely, hoping to kind of shake things up right now.
I don't want to play the game of, what's the term I'm trying to say? Devil's advocate or to be negative in any way. But one of the cool things to talk about a coach with is, okay, where do you stand on things? So my question to you is, okay, what's the challenge or what aren't you doing well that this 8-0 maybe hides a little bit?
We were a little bit more tested last year, I think. We played Wesleyan last year and beat them on early, which was a pretty big win for us with a young team last year. So, definitely not super, super tested in the non-conference yet. We're going to play Nyack, a Division II team. So, definitely that could be a little bit different. But, not taking anything away from what they've done either. They've kind of come out defensively really well. But again, for me, it's kind of 1 game at a time, and the scope of Division III is so big. But I really, I'm enjoying it with them. I know DeSales is always top. Misericordia is very good this year. It's been like that though for 7 years. It's always kind of the highs and the lows, and anyone can win any night. And that's what I like about the Freedom so much is that teams really always show up.
Yeah, you've got an interesting schedule ahead of you. You're at Pitt Bradford, was supposed to happen tomorrow. That game's already been postponed due to weather. That was postponed several days ago. By the way, just in hindsight, good decision?
Yeah, I think so. Just this time of the year with the holidays and things like that, yeah.
Yeah, I know Pitt Bradford's not the easiest place to get to, and a little bit of weather can go a long way. So then you're going to be at home on Wednesday against Mount St. Vincent. Take the holidays off. You're going to then play home against my alma mater, Goucher. Hint, hint, lose that game for me. Just don't mind it. It's okay. It won't affect anything. Okay. Then you're at Nyack, as you pointed out, then at home against John Jay, and then you get back into the Freedom. So what is the goal here with these next 4 games, assuming Pitt Bradford doesn't get squeezed in there somewhere as well? What's the goal with these games to get yourself?
I'll hate it the most. a little bit of how they're going to come back. Nyack's going to be tough. They only just lost the pace by 6. So, we're going to really have to prepare for that, and kind of go in there and hopefully that can kind of test us a little bit before.
By anybody in the Freedom about those two facts.
I'll plead the fifth.
Yeah. But DeSales looks like a fierce team this year. He certainly has got a squad that's clicking along, at least early on.
Yeah, for sure. I think DeSales has been, I've been in this now 7 years with this conference. I think they've been one of the top teams no matter what. So I think that they're always, last year was actually the first year that we beat them since I've been here. So I think there's a little confidence with it too now. So I think that, they're always good. So, I think they're always that good. So I think everyone else thinks they're really good right now, but I always think they're that good. So I'll give him credit there. But, like I said,
darn good teams.
Mm-hmm.
Freedom doesn't get as much attention because it hasn't been as competitive. And I look at this going, okay, Florham's down, kind of expected that. Eastern hasn't been the same since Nate Davis left. What do I make of Kings? What do I make of Del? I feel almost a little confused looking at the Freedom.
Yeah, I think it's, and I haven't been on the Commonwealth side of it. And I think that obviously with, Messiah, kind of sitting at the top of that conference for so many years. But, I think they've had their, Lev Val used to be top 25 when, years ago. So I think it's the years and the highs and the lows and people going through everything and, everyone's kind of going through it. I do think the Freedom, with some really good teams this year. I think we've had really good teams in the past though too. So hopefully maybe we get a little bit more recognition this year with kind of what people are doing right now.
Let's talk about your squad. You got 3 seniors on this team, and then I see a whole mess of sophomores and freshmen. I think you forgot a class. I don't see a junior.
The juniors.
Did you take a year off from recruiting, Coach?
It didn't work out, with some kids the way it goes. But no juniors, and a lot of young kids, a lot of young players.
Yeah. So how does this work? You're off to this 8-0 start with 3 seniors, and obviously that's important. And that works, but how are the underclassmen stepping up into their roles, and how is that kind of gelling with a senior squad that I'm sure is trying to lead the way to some degree as well?
Mm-hmm. I think that we started some of these now sophomores last year. So I think they got a lot of experience under their belt. They played in some really, really tough MAC Freedom games. So I think that they've gelled a little bit. I think actually our chemistry is better this year than it was last year, to be honest. And I think that we have some freshmen kind of coming in and filling some roles a little bit. Definitely, a young team for sure. With 3 seniors on the team, one that just kind of scored 1,000 points and is kind of putting herself in a position as a senior leader. But I actually like the chemistry of them a lot. I like the youth of us, to be honest. There's a lot that's going to be coming back, which is exciting. But I think that right now, they're just trying to figure out how to, win together with the best, the 5 on the floor always at the same time, and who those guys are, no matter kind of whether they're freshmen, sophomores, or, if it's a senior.
You mentioned Kaylee McGuire, who is the 1,000-point scorer, just got there. She's averaging 16 points a game to lead the team. It's a sophomore, though, and Sarah Kotu, who's a sophomore at 15.3, 9.6 from Allie McKaylee, who's a freshman. So there is that breakdown right there, just in the top. You've got that one senior who's really good, but she's relying on underclassmen to help her out.
She is. And sometimes, a few years ago, we had a really good run in the MAC. We had 3 really good seniors, and it was not a lot of underclassmen. And this has kind of flipped a little bit in terms of where the production's coming from. I kind of like it, honestly. It shows that not one person has to do it, and I think for us, it's going to give us a lot of experience going into the future, so that we're not having to rely heavily so much, on one class, and that these guys have so much game time experience underneath them. They really had to step into roles last year, and a couple freshmen right now starting and stepping into roles. Allie really kind of proving herself a little bit right now. So young and dumb sometimes, but also really fun on a good day.
Looking at your roster, one other thing that jumps out at me, no surprise, you got Maryland, New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, pretty much players from that area. Doesn't shock me for your program. But you've got two from Florida, from Kissimmee and Boca Raton, and then 2 from Las Vegas, Nevada. Those seem very much like outliers. How are you enticing those 4 to come to Manhattanville?
We've actually started to try to get out of state a little bit with the recruiting. It's tough in this area, especially with all the schools and the state schools and the SUNYACs. So I started trying to get a little creative about our recruiting a few years ago, and we've had some nice production out of some kids out of state. We have some kids committed for next year that are far out of state as well. So not going fully out of New York because, obviously we are changing conferences next year too. So things are changing for us again. But, definitely, I think the out-of-state kids, their job is really hard to come here, and what they do and the amount of time they spend away from their families and the sacrifice that they make to this team. And I think it's really changed our culture a lot in a positive way.
I'd be shameless not to mention, if you want to help out with those Nevada kids, there's this event called the D3Hoops.com Classic in Las Vegas every year. Love to have you. Just saying.
Trying to get their sophomores, so hopefully by their senior year is a goal of ours for sure.
Sure, I can understand that. I realize you may need to go to Florida too. I got a question Gordon wanted me to ask you. Backing up to your point guard, Sarah Kotsu.
Yeah.
This is his wording, so I'm going to take it. He certainly focuses more on the nuances of the women's game than I do, admittedly. He says, shoots a lot, is very aggressive. Ask how you are tailoring the offense to fit that style, or if you've tried to tailor to Kotu's style instead. You know what I'm saying? Are you trying to tailor Kotu to what you're trying to do, or are you maybe twisting and turning things back to what she's doing in a different way?
I think until Sarah, I don't think we had a true point guard. Okay. I think when I first got here, the kid we had, who was a really good player, we kind of turned her into a 1, kind of took over this team in kind of a tough spot at the beginning. So it's been kind of nice having Sarah, in terms of, her ability. You got to rein Sarah in a little bit sometimes too. But I think that she's a kid that is very infectious to watch. She provides you so much, and sometimes she takes a little bit away from you. But I think in terms of our offense, she's learned to kind of adapt to the other people on the floor with her, which is something I think in high school and AAU she didn't really know how to do yet. She was kind of the center of attention. So I think here, what's been more impressive about her sophomore year is that, moving the ball a little bit better in terms of, how she sees her teammates. Her passing has gotten a little bit better, which is something that we want to work on with her. But Sarah has that green light to take that shot. She wants the ball in her hands. She is that kid as a sophomore. She was that kid as a freshman, and that's why I recruited her, because she's kind of fearless in that aspect.
Fascinating. So maybe a hybrid to that answer. There's a little bit of catering to her and a little bit of
hybrid. I've adapted to her. I gotta.
Okay.
I think with point guards, they're extremely heady sometimes and emotional, and you kind of have to learn to kind of get them to play the way you want them to play too. But also, I don't want to confine her in so much all the time either.
Oh, that makes sense. Sure, makes sense totally. It's fascinating. 8-0 starts great. It's awesome. Now the expectations have been increased, at least from the outside. Have expectations increased from the inside?
Always. My expectations are always increased. I've had goals for this program since I got here, and we haven't, we've hit some great ones. We've had some huge milestones, and, obviously a championship is the goal that we're trying to get to, but we're going to do it in the right way and kind of the way that works for us. And the expectations of us are high. I think it's hard to not lose a game yet because, sometimes you just want to get the monkey off your back so that you're not about it anymore. But I think there's also, people give more credit to my girls than I actually give to my kids. So, they're fun and they're special. And I think that they're going to take it one game at a time right now. And, we're just going to focus on the next game that we have on our schedule, and not look too deep into the MAC right now and kind of, get our eyes too wide.
You kind of went in a direction I was gonna say, but probably said it better than I. A loss is coming. And I say that because I just don't expect teams to go undefeated. And we know it's happening on December 29th anyway.
Yeah.
But how do you either prepare a team for a loss or handle it after a start like this to go, okay, fine, whatever, move on?
Yeah, so it was interesting. Last year we started out, we lost the second game of the season, didn't lose again until mid-January.
Yeah.
And it was weird. And we were taken down, we had finally beat the Sales, and, we were kept kind of going. And then finally we stumbled. And I think it's really hard. And especially with, kids that haven't been in that situation yet. I don't put pressure on them. They have nothing to lose, and that's how I want them to kind of go about it. They're proving people wrong, and that's kind of our motto. And failure is a part of this, and it's a part of the process. And the best teams in the country go through it. So, I think that how we handle that adversity when it does come to our way at some point, we'll speak more about us than what we're kind of doing right now and how we kind of handle that.
You lived in New Hampshire, interestingly enough, just talked to New England college head coach prior to you talking about all the snow in New Hampshire and how he's an indoor guy.
Yeah.
You went to school in St. Lawrence. That's not much better
Nope.
in terms of weather. And then you were at Framingham State prior to this job. Now you're kind of sliding south.
Yeah.
Better?
Well, yeah, a little bit better, I guess. I think I definitely love the New England basketball up there and the New York basketball. When I took over here, we were definitely, it was a little different than it is now. So I give all my alumni and my kids a lot of credit for the point that we're at and things that they've done. But I think in terms of location, yes, I was 27 when I got this job, and now I'm married, so things are a little bit different. But I think that this location's great. We recruit kids to New York City and Westchester County and the opportunity that they have. But for me, for weather purposes, yes, way better.
You mentioned the marriage, and I wanted to bring this one up because it's an interesting balance because your wife is the head lacrosse coach at D2 Pace.
Yes.
I won't go into my – I'm a lacrosse guy too. I've called the last 3 women's lacrosse Final Fours. I think D2 is a interesting dichotomy in women's lacrosse.
It is.
In lacrosse in general. But how do you two balance that? Because when you're done – geez, not even when you're done. You're still in the heat of conference play. When she's just getting things rolling for her season. So when you're done, she's in the middle of the heat for her season. How do you see each other with the recruiting and is there any time?
It's a great question. No, but we try. I think
maybe that's why it works.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting household. We chase championships at my house. That's kind of what we say to each other.
That's awesome.
She took over a great team last year. They've got a great program at Pace, and but I think in terms of our lifestyle, it's a lot of conversations about getting recruits and losing recruits, and being mad at our players and not mad at our players, and the highs and the lows, and celebrating the little victories. I give us both a lot of credit for what we do. I think we both have great teams, and I think it speaks a lot to kind of women coaches and that you can do this, and you can kind of make it work. So we really pride ourselves in it. We talk about it. We love it. And in this area, definitely, a lot of our players actually, Long Island kids, and the mix, and so I think that we wish we saw each other more. February gets really hard. We're on completely opposite schedules, but it's a support thing, and she's always over here, and I'll be over at Pace in the spring, so sure. It's fun. Our jobs are fun. So
I gotta imagine there's some jealousy too, because I'm sure there's at some point where she's like, I'm not allowed to go out and recruit anymore because there's a calendar in place, and you're like, well, I'm gonna go out and get some players. At the same time, that probably flips because you probably wish you could be at home while she's not going anywhere. And then on the flip side, she's probably working with players when you really wish you could be working with players.
Yeah, the D2 thing. So she was actually at Manhattanville before she went to Pace. So she gets both worlds. But the D2 thing is definitely something I've learned more about,
Sure.
In terms of the 8 hours and what you have the ability to have with your players. Right. And there's also some really big challenges too that I think she faces. But I think, we're definitely, we get excited about it. It's, it's our girls, our teams are kind of shared, and we do that with each other. And I think that there's real power to it, and any female coach that, wants to really take a stab at this and have a family and all that kind of stuff, you can definitely do it.
Well, really cool to chat with you, Coach. I appreciate you taking the time. Fascinating start to the season. I'm impressed, to say the least. I think the MAC Freedom is going to be a fascinating conference to watch this season.
Yeah, got to give us a little credit.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm intrigued, to say the least. I'm glad whoever messaged me, I think it was probably Alex, did so. Good luck. By the way, you planning to get the Pitt Bradford game back in?
Don't know yet. We're not sure. So
Okay.
next is Mount St. Vincent. So
Yeah, so you got Mount St. Vincent next, then Goucher, then Nyack. Obviously, we've mentioned that a few times. Good luck. Have a great holidays.
You too.
We always have a tradition on the show. We give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those tuning in?
Happy holidays to everybody. For coaches, take a break, get a little breath, but enjoy your seasons, and thank you so much for having me on.
Well, thank you, Coach. And thanks for coming on Skype, too. Fun to see you as well.
I appreciate that. Thanks so much.
Take care. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Kate Vlahakis joining us here on Hoopsville. Great to chat with her. Again, Pitt-Bradford game was supposed to be played tomorrow. That's been delayed. We'll see when that gets put back in. Mount St. Vincent coming up on the 19th. Goucher on the 29th. January 2nd against Nyack. The 5th against John Jay. Then they get into conference play against Kings on the 9th. We're going to take another break. When we come back, Oglethorpe will go even further south. They got Hope and Calvin coming to the black floor. Yeah, it's going to be good. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. More Hoopsville after this.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
I used to never really talk, ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what. Now go out there and take it.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, on this Sunday evening. Thank you for bearing with us on our challenges. Technically, it looks like we're good to go so far for the rest of the night. If you've got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville at D3Hoops.com, or join us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Hoopsville. Don't forget, coming up, we got Buy or Sell with Bob Quillman and Ryan Scott to talk about men's basketball. We will do the same with Gordon coming up in on Thursday's show. So don't forget about all that stuff. Hope you are tuned in. I'm realizing our breakup in the broadcast has hurt us a little bit, but we hope you're enjoying it nonetheless. So let's keep talking women's basketball. Switching sides, talking about Oglethorpe, a program that has certainly gotten our attention in the past, not only because of the black floor that they've got on the court, still one of the cooler things and maybe stranger things you might see in basketball. Last year, if you remember when we had Alex Richey on the show, we talked about the challenges of scheduling. We talked about trying to improve one's schedule, his relationship with individuals like Brian Morehouse through stuff like Beyond Sports and et cetera. And he dropped the little nugget that Hope and Calvin were coming back, or coming, not coming back, I should say, coming to Oglethorpe. They were going to make the trip to Atlanta to play them at this point in the season. If you don't think I circled that note and made it a note in my calendar, you are nuts. Because darn right I circled that. And darn right I decided to figure out how to get Alex Richey on before they talked about it. He helped us out, I should add, by going and winning at this point. Now 8-1 with a win today against Guilford, 47-42. They have Hope, who's probably pissed off, coming into town. And then they got Calvin. So let's talk to him about it. Joining us on the Hoopsville hotline, it is the aforementioned Alex Richey. And, Coach, thank you for taking the time.
Dave, thanks so much for the call, and looking forward to talking about this great tournament we've got coming up.
Absolutely. Let's first, though, back up, talk about the season. Started with a win over Emory in overtime, 71-64. Not too shabby. Went to Alabama. Mary Hardin-Baylor beat you guys by 15, but that is starting to turn into improve to be not so bad a loss, to be blunt. Mary Hardin-Baylor
is pretty special.
Yeah, that Mary Hardin-Baylor team seems to be really putting it together. After that, though, wins over Covenant, Piedmont, LaGrange, Barry, and then a win over a pretty good Guilford squad that's not that far removed from its NCAA tournament appearances. You've got to be at least thrilled that you're 8-1 at this point, and that your only blemish is to what is turning into a pretty good Mary Hardin-Baylor team.
You know, we're really excited with where we are. I think the most exciting thing about this group, though, is we feel like we can continue to grow and continue to get better. We really haven't put together a 40-minute game yet, which is what we talk about with our group all the time, is playing for 40 minutes. And, you know, we really don't want to be playing our best basketball at the end of at this point in the season. We want to be playing our best at the end. And I think these games like the one we had today where we didn't necessarily shoot the ball well, but, you know, our calling card has been our defense and our rebounding. In the last two games where we haven't shot the ball particularly well, we figured out ways to win. And I think that's a sign of having a pretty mature group. This is a group that I've had 4-year seniors, and, you know, we brought a lot of kids back from our conference championship team last year, and they're just really such a joy to be around and working extremely hard. And I couldn't be happy for them for the start that they put together this season. And, you know, we've got big things, big goals this year, and just want to keep pushing towards them.
You've also had a wide range of games. You beat Piedmont 81-72. That's your most points put up, except for in a game against Agnes Scott, 78-37. But then you have a game like today against Guilford, 57 or 47-42. Are you guys more comfortable with a little bit more high-scoring pace, or are you more comfortable with a low-scoring pace?
Well, I joked with my wife after the game, and I said, I don't know if we've been a part of a game where we've won scoring 47 points. So that was a new thing for us today, and we definitely like to get to a higher scoring and higher paced game. I didn't really think either team shot the ball particularly well. They had played 2 days ago, and we just got off the finals. So,
right.
You know, there's a lot that goes into that. But you've got to find ways to win, and we always talk about how defense travels. And even though we were at home, if we can stick to our principles defensively and control the backboards like we've been able to do the last 2 weeks with a win at Barry and a win today, we think we're a pretty good basketball team. So fortunate enough, we were able to get some good results and some close wins. And I think that builds a lot of character within your group when you've been able to go through some close games and are challenging yourself on a schedule and playing teams like Rose Holman and Piedmont and Mary Hardin-Baylor and, you know, today with Guilford and, you know, obviously moving forward with the games we got coming up.
You've got 5 seniors listed on the roster. 4 of them play. But it's not a senior leading the way. It's your center, Savannah Legate, at 14 points a game, a sophomore, also hauling in 8 rebounds a game. To add to that, by the way, nearly two blocks a game to add to the resume. And then it's Lauren Ransom, the senior, at forward at 8.3 points a game, and also a block and a half herself, also a steal and a half a game. So you got an interesting scenario here where your sophomore, at least on paper, appears to be your main target, despite the fact you've got quite a bit of senior leadership on the squad.
Yeah, you know, Lauren started her career really as our focal point of our offense, and just her leadership, for her to have the unselfishness to be able to share the workload with Savannah has been really, really rewarding for me to watch up from afar, because that's got to be tough when, you know, you could be the superstar each and every game like she was her first 2 years, but the kid just values winning. And so I think that's a really high character aspect from a kid like Lauren and really her teammates as well. You know, when anybody comes into the program, you know, you obviously want to be competitive, and some kids had to sacrifice roles and minutes, but we try to explain to everyone that we don't necessarily care who's getting statistics, who's getting the minutes, who's getting the shots. We just want to get more than the opponent. And so, you know, we're playing, if you looked at our box score today, we play 10 or 11 kids every game because of our style play and our expectations on the defensive end. And, you know, I'm really happy for this senior group. They've had the bumps and bruises of the early parts of their career when we were building this thing. And to see, like I said, the fruits of their labor, come in their senior year has been really, really enjoyable for me.
Yeah, it's certainly, interesting to see how it's all worked. And sometimes the best seniors are the ones who understand that there's other players who can help them get to the goal that the team has set, that it doesn't have to be the seniors. But what really jumps out at me is that I think it's not that common to see your two main threats be the forwards. We've gotten so much more guard play in college basketball. Granted, some of them are labeled guards. That's more on the men's side than women's. But guards like Temple Madison are the ones who are leading teams because they can put up points when they need. Certainly, you need a person inside. But you've got two. You've got the center in Legate, and you got the forward in Ransom. That's got to be significant for you in the sense that double teams are harder if you've got both of them on the floor at the same time.
100%. And, it's funny, when in the recruitment process of Savannah, and we brought Audrey Burge with her as well, who's, had a really good start to her career as a sophomore. And we've got another forward and a junior, Carly Dyer, who's had, she started 50 games for us and is coming off the bench for us this season. But between the four of them, I really had to get away from what I had known before in terms of an offensive system. I was a dribble drive guy, really guard-oriented, perimeter-oriented, but, you're not – I got to the point where I realized, you got to play your best players together. And so we developed an offensive system that highlights both Lauren and Savannah and gives our opportunity for our players to still play up-tempo. And we've got a really special point guard in senior Bailey Charles, and now we have a freshman in Nikki Reed who's, off to a great start in her career. So we want to have offensive balance, but we certainly know that, if we can put pressure on teams on the inside and collapse defenses, we want to be able to step out and shoot the three, which we shoot the three a lot. It's a big weapon for us, but, to have that offensive balance in your system is really important. So that's something that we're still looking to get to. And, we've had some games of success with that. And I would say the last two, our shooters have struggled knocking some shots down from the perimeter. But like I told them today, even after the game, I have firm and ultimate confidence in all of them. And I know that they'll be knocking shots down here in the near future.
All right, so let's talk what's ahead. This is something you and I chatted about and certainly got me excited last February, I think it was, maybe March, when you mentioned that you got Hope and Calvin coming to town. You're friends with Brian Morehouse, and that's part of the reason you're able to pull this one off. But to get both of them down to one of my favorite courts in the land, not because I've been to it, but because of what it looks like, it's odd. It's tough. It took something to get them both down there for this, and you've now got them there. Feels like the perfect opportunity against a Hope team that just lost big to Thomas More and a Calvin squad that hasn't been as strong as we've been used to.
I just got to figure out how to get you down here for this tournament. I should have just figured that out and worked that out into the deal, but we would have loved to make that work. But it's going to be a great tournament, and it's so funny. I got in the car after a win and obviously feeling pretty good after you win a game in a tight situation. And I immediately called Brian, and, Brian and I talk every week. He's been a great mentor to me. Our relationships, we took our wives this summer on a Beyond Sports trip, and they've become friends. And that's just really special for a guy like him to take the time with a young coach like me. And I'm really excited to spend a little time with him. And, every conversation that we have, we get to pick each other's brains. And, we had talked even prior to the Thomas More game, and, they're playing so well. And, fortunately enough, we both have a good relationship with Jeff Hans as well. And so, I knew that they were having a battle, and unfortunate for me that, Thomas More played so well against them, because I know Brian's going to have his team really focused coming into our game on Thursday. But, we're going to take every game as an opportunity for us to get better. And we just want to continue to progress, and we really are going to get to see where we're at as a program this upcoming weekend. And the other great matchup, we'll play Hope on Thursday, and we'll play Calvin on Friday. And Chuck Winkleman, when I got the women's job at Oglethorpe, was the coach at Millsap.
Right.
He extended a helping hand to me, especially early on in my career, was so good to me. And so, my first call was to Brian after the game today, and my second call was to Chuck. I'm just lining up practice times for them to come to Atlanta and Brian's doing something really cool with his group. He's bringing them down to Atlanta, and they're going to, experience the Southern culture that we have here. And I recommended restaurants and did all that type of stuff. They're going to a Hawks game. And,
oh, cool.
It should be a really good week for both of those programs down here.
I think
a little warmer.
Just
for sure.
Maybe. Let's not assume. I'm kidding. Thomas More might be might be the only place they're not playing this year. I believe Thomas More is catching everybody else on their schedule this year.
Yeah.
What do you expect out of this Hope game, with the twist that Thomas More wiped their own floor with them by 20, and I'd argue it wasn't that close? Do you expect? Is that maybe the worst loss you could have expected to see for Hope, because now they may come in with a little bit of piss and vinegar?
I would say that Jeff's team is playing as good as anybody in the country.
Yeah.
Brian kind of knew that going into the game. And I'm a fan. I watch a lot of these teams play and watched that game the other day. And, Madison Temple was lights out. The other wings that, he's got were lights out and made every open shot. And, sometimes you just tip a cap to a team that they had the better day. And there was no doubt that Thomas More had the better day the other day. And I'm certain that Brian's going to have this group totally focused. They've got the culture, they've got the leadership, they obviously have the coach, and they're going to come down focused. We want to be playing a team like Hope because we want to see where we are. If we want to be one of the better programs in the country, we got to play and compete against some of the better programs in the country, and that's what I think we're doing. And I know my kids are really excited, and they're excited about the opportunity to compete against a great program like Hope, and I'm excited to compete against my mentor and do that type of stuff too. So it should be a really good matchup on Thursday, and we hope we can put our best foot forward.
I'm looking forward to that, and obviously the Calvin game. But after that, you guys take a break. You'll take on North Park at home, and then you get into conference play. And obviously the bigger deal here is going to be conference play, because that's your easiest avenue into the tournament. So all of this earlier stuff is wonderful. You may get into the top 25 as a result of that, but how important is the SAA this season, and how difficult do you think it'll be? Because the SAA seems to be a little bit of a revolving door at the top.
Yeah, I think you've got a lot of really good coaches in the league who are going to have their teams prepared for conference play. I'm really impressed with Lauren Sumsky and her husband Chris, who's on the staff there at Rhodes, and they're going to be really tough matchup. Drew Gang, I think, is as good a coach in the South region as there is at Hendricks. And I know there's some other schools. Millsaps is playing really well. Center's off to a good start.
Mm-hmm.
Birmingham has a ton of talent. So every night in our league, anybody can beat anybody. So you just got to be laser focused and value those games, specifically on the road. If you can handle your business at home and then get some road wins, you're going to be sitting in a pretty good spot. And so that's what we talk about with our group and our strategy kind of going forward. And, but I'm really excied for the improvement in our league. I think I'm really excited for the improvement in the South region in general.
Yeah.
I think there's some really good teams playing in the ASC and the ODAC, obviously, USA South. So I think it's really good for the state of Division III basketball in the Southeast, and we just have to continue to play against some of these higher caliber teams to continue to build our reputation, and hopefully we can fare well, and that would be only good things for all of our programs moving forward.
We should point out, we said last show, we got probably 4 teams in Texas that are worth watching: in Austin, Mary Hardin, Baylor, East Texas Baptist, and then Trinity, Texas. I think you can't you forget them, and I feel like I'm still forgetting somebody in that group. You've got what's going on down the South with you and Emory, certainly. You've got the ODAC. It's a fascinating South this year, to say the least. Jumping off track a little bit here, Beyond Sports was announced as the sponsor of the All-Star Game, the inaugural All-Star Game in Division III women's basketball, to be played in Salem, Virginia, this coming championship weekend. I know you've been involved with that. I just wanted to get your take on not only the All-Star Game finally coming to fruition, but the fact that a group that I know that you feel is important, Beyond Sports, being part of that.
Yeah, big shout-out to our guy, Josh Erickson, at Beyond Sports, who runs that company. And they just welcomed their second child, and so big congrats to that family. They're just fantastic people, and have really enjoyed building a great friendship with him and his wife, and have been able to be blessed to go on 2 great trips. And I told you, I was able to take my wife on the second one.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't letting me go by with not taking her on the second one after I was unfortunately unable to take her on the first one. But so we had a great trip with them to Italy this past summer, and Brian was on that trip this past year with his wife, and Adrian Scheibels and I have been able to build a great relationship, and Kristen Dowling and Stephanie Stevens at Gallaudet. It's just a really, really awesome group of people that we've been able to meet through that in this basketball community. And to see Josh just help grow the game is really special. And I know Pat Manning had a lot of things to do with that, but I got to give credit to Brian Morehouse as well, who has been talking about this for years, and spent some time talking with Josh and linking that up as well. So I know he's kind of behind the scenes on that, but he did a really good job as well in helping this thing progress to where it is. And it's just really special for these young women and throughout the country that are going to get this great opportunity to play in an all-star game and extend their career a little bit more. And that's what it's all about, right? Is having these experiences and opportunities for these young women that, are eventually going to be really successful in the next group of future leaders in our country. So that's just great. And I couldn't be happier with this partnership that's been now announced and is going to be great.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to seeing how it comes together, and looking forward to seeing the first game take to the floor. And it's kind of cool that a different sponsor is how I would put that. It's not your traditional avenue that's sponsoring a chip, and that's great to see as well. So, Alex, thanks for taking the time to join us. Have fun at least this week with your cohorts down there in Atlanta. Maybe getting them distracted with other things going on this week's a good idea. Just FYI.
For sure.
Get them thinking about anything but you guys. In the meantime, we always give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Yeah, Dave, just thanks so much for obviously letting us highlight and talk a little bit about our program. And thank you for all that you do for, growing our game and allowing us to learn a little bit more about some of these great programs other than our own. And may not necessarily be in our region. And I was obviously listening to the show prior to getting on the call and learning a little bit about Manhattanville and some of these other programs I don't get to hear from or see that much is always really cool. So just thanks for all that you're doing, and hopefully we get to talk again here soon.
I agree. Well, thank you for the time. Take care of yourself. Happy holidays, and we'll talk soon, I'm sure.
Thanks, Dave. Have a great one.
You too. Alex Richey joining us from Oglethorpe. Team is 8-1. Again, big games against Hope and Calvin coming up this week. Hey, you get a chance maybe if you haven't before to check out what the black floor looks like in a stream. There with the Stormy Petrels taking on Hope and Calvin this week, worth seeing. That might be one of the reasons maybe that, just maybe that we're doing a Thursday afternoon show this week, just maybe, so we can see the Hope game at 5 o'clock. All right, going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll jump back into men's basketball, recap the first 5.5, somewhat 6 weeks with Bob Quillman and Ryan Scott. Also do a little bit of buy and sell with them. And get their takes on things as we look at the final top 25 vote of the 2018 side of the season. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA and NABC Studios. We'll be back with more right after this.
I coined my definition of success in 1934.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, and I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all. It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying this show. We are back on the air with the stream. We had a little bit of a hiccup there. Our Christmas wish for the show is we finally figured out how to get these computers to work properly. If you got any questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville, hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville at d3hoops.com. Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville, where we're simulcasting the show. We're also on Periscope for the very first time. Seems to be working there as well. All that information scrolling at the bottom of your screen. So last week we dived into something a little bit new when Ryan Scott came on for the Top 25 double take. And I thought it worked pretty darn well. We did a little buy or sell. It was something that we didn't technically see. I saw it a little bit ahead of Ryan, but we didn't let Ryan know what it was. I figured we're at that point in the season where we are just about 6 weeks in. We're about to take the holiday break. Maybe, just maybe, we should try to get a recap of the opening season, maybe do a little bit of buy and sell. But instead of just Ryan, let's get our other good friend involved as well. Well, that person happens to be Bob Quillman. So joining us on Skype, it's both Ryan Scott and Bob Quillman. And gentlemen, thank you so much.
Good to see you, Dave. Good to see you, Ryan.
That's right. Thanks. I was saying it's a couple months early from when we normally do this, but it's fun.
All right, so we have 19 pool Cs. I'm just kidding. Actually, we'll have a pool B this year to pick. Just warning you all now. Not that it'll be that hard. I think we'll know where that one goes. Let's first start. We'll do a little bit of the recap of the 6 weeks. Just kind of get from these guys their take on who they, jumps out at them or maybe isn't jumping out at them. We'll do a little bit of buy and sell. We'll also get a take on them from the top 25 this week. I don't expect a ton of movement, but there might be some. But I want to quickly go back to what was another wild and wacky CCIW night, and usually we're used to those in January and February, not late December. I think we need to start relabeling the conference. CCIW needs to be relabeled Wild and Wacky Conference, maybe. Bob, I'll start with you because you're the CCIW king to some degree amongst the trio of us. First off, upsets, and second of all, a tough injury that certainly had some ripples throughout the conference.
Yeah, I would say first of all, thoughts and prayers with Aiden Chang of North Central. I didn't see the injury, and I'm glad that I didn't. But by all accounts, it sounds like it was awful. And he's the heart and soul of that team. He's the reason they won that game last night. He locked up Aston Francis, relatively speaking. He's done that before. He's locked up a lot of great players in the CCIW. And it sounded like a horrific leg injury. And he had successful surgery today.
Good.
Just a pair of broken bone and torn ligaments. and a lot of things. And so that was an awful injury in the North Central Wheaton game, but Aiden Chang is through surgery, and we hope that he's on the mend. And then, unfortunately, my alma mater was on the bad side of a really tough upset. Illinois Wesleyan comes in ranked number 15, loses at home to Carroll. And it was a really tough game if you're a Titan fan like I am. And so it has been a wild CCIW season, Dave.
Yeah. I don't expect anybody to go into that conference undefeated. It's just because it doesn't happen. But last night was a quick reminder that on any given night, right?
Well, I don't think it's happened. I don't know the count now. I've lost it. I think it's 42 years.
Something like that, yeah.
Augustana went 16-0 somewhere in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And it's my favorite stat with the CCIW because think of some of the eras here. You had Jack Sikma, who was the 8th pick in the NBA draft that never went undefeated. You had North Park's national championship teams. There are 5 of those.
Right.
None of them went undefeated. Illinois Wesleyan's national championship team did not go undefeated, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's hard to go through that league unscathed, and it's probably one of my favorite stats that talks about how strong the league is.
Yeah, Augustana, it was the last game of the year against Illinois Wesleyan, they lost?
You are reversing the situation, my friend. That was the Illinois Wesleyan Titans that played.
Oh, thank you, yes.
It was at North Central in Naperville, and the game went into overtime, and the Titans had a chance to make history and lost an overtime game.
I thought Augustana, though, went late in the year and lost a game.
Not in recent memory.
Okay.
They've been awfully incredible for the last decade or 20 years, but they have not flirted with 14-0 as far as I can remember.
Okay. I'm at this point, it all kind of blurs together, which is why I invite you guys on sometimes to help unblur it a little bit. With that in mind, let's quickly talk about what has jumped out of you this season, and we'll go into buy and sell. Ryan, we'll start with you. We kind of do this every week, but anything that's kind of jumped out of you in the almost 6 weeks that we've had here about the season on the men's side?
I think for me, it's been the overall talent. So many good teams that we're seeing across the country. Yes, there have been losses, but good teams are playing good games. They're playing each other this year, and just the depth. Maybe we were awakened to it last year with Nebraska Wesleyan coming, sort of out of nowhere. But we just recognize how many strong teams there are that can be contenders.
Bob?
Yeah, same thing. I'll sound like a broken record, but the parity in NCAA Division III. So if you look at Nebraska Wesleyan as the number 1 team, I don't believe there's much separation between Nebraska Wesleyan and whoever that next group is. I think the WIAC teams are in there. I think Augustana, for me, is right there. Williams, the NESCAC, et cetera. I would say that there's 15 teams that could win the national championship this year. So to me, it's all about the parity.
I'd agree with you. As good as Nebraska Wesleyan is, as good as I think Whitman is, especially those two teams being so darn deep. Whitworth, Augustana, Williams, Hamilton. Unfortunately, not Springfield now. I think that's what jumps out to me is how injuries have affected a little bit of this early season. MIT has dealt with some injuries and haven't been at 100%. Springfield, obviously, with Ross, has been an injury story. Now we're kind of seeing that a little bit with Chang. Obviously, we always deal with injuries, but that one's one of the topics for me that jumps out and how much that has put teams and races and all that stuff kind of in flux.
If you look at Nebraska Wesleyan last year, wins the national championship. We had a pool seat projection show, the 3 of us, and had Nebraska Wesleyan not won the IIAC, which is no longer the name of that league, had they not won that, I'm not sure that we would have had them as one of our 25 because their SOS was under 500. It was like 494.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you think of the margin of error here in Division III. A team that maybe doesn't make it as a Pool C wins the national championship.
Yeah.
It is really tight. And again, this is very different than where we were like 20 years ago.
That's a tremendous point, Bob. Absolutely. And by the way, a little nugget that I'm going to keep putting out there like a fly fisherman waiting to hit the perfect fish. That discussion of win-loss versus SOS is going to be very different this year. We've already heard the hint that 0.03 to 2 games isn't going to play out. So, this whole year has an interesting feel to it. when we're gathered again in late February, maybe we're all hosting the Oscars for all we know. We're going to have some interesting conversations. So, yeah, let's turn this now into the buy and sell part, if you don't mind. I have a source who just puts together teams he thinks might be worth a convo. We don't have to take all of these, but there's certainly some good ones. I have promised you I've only seen the first two because they were on the sheet when it opened up. Otherwise, we'll go. So just basically a buy or sell. The buy is either the team is playing really well out of the gates and you think are going to continue to play well, or maybe they're struggling, but you're buying into that they're going to come back, if that makes any sense. So we're still talking about them in February, maybe March. The sell is they're out of the gates really well, but there's no way they keep this up, especially when they get into conference play, and they're maybe not going to be a factor. Or sell is they have really struggled out of the gate, and we're not going to see them at the end. Does that make sense? So it's basically buy is, yeah, we're going to keep talking. Sell, we're not, depending on their circumstances.
For the regular Hoopsville listeners, this is where Dave takes a relatively simple concept and
it makes it completely a mess.
The rules. Buy, sell. I'm good. Ryan, you good? We're good.
No,
we can buy, we can sell.
Yeah. All right, we're going to start with St. Thomas. 8-1. Beat Stevens Point just last night. 4-0 in the MIAC to start. Have won 8 straight after losing to Brooklyn to start the season 78-77. Obviously, they get into the conference play, and it's nitty-gritty in January and February. Bob, because it's left to right for me. We'll start with you.
I'll say buy if we're talking about the bottom end of the top 25. I think St. Thomas is a candidate to be in the poll, maybe 24-25. That's where I'd be comfortable with them. So I'm going to say buy.
Ryan?
Yeah, I'm going to be buying as well. They looked awfully good last night. They've been getting better as the season's gone along. They got this freshman, Anders Nelson, who is a really strong player, and they're putting the ball in his hand more. He's running the point for Tower as a true freshman, which surprises me a little bit, and it means I think he's got some room to grow, and they're going to get better.
I'll give you that. I'm a soft buy. I'm a little nervous, but when John Tower is the head coach, I don't ever want to overlook a squad when he's in charge. He's done so well, so I'll buy. I get nervous because I think their dominance in the conference hasn't been there as much as it used to be. But that's a hats off to the rest of everybody else, not to St. Thomas. I should point out, by the way, folks, I have not told these guys who these teams are coming up, so this is fun, just kind of going off the fly here. This one's interesting. Worcester, 7-1, lost to Wabash back on the 8th. There are 4 games that are key. They got Whitman, Sul Ross State, Ohio Wesleyan, New Jersey City. Here's a question from the person who put this together. If buying, will they win those games? If selling, is it because you think they'll lose?
Who's going first, Dave?
I'll go Ryan. We'll flip it.
I am going to sell on Worcester. I think they're better than I thought they were at the beginning of the season, but still, I'm not sure that's enough to make a real difference. They play well. They're always really well disciplined. They hold on to the ball. I really wish we could be doing this after the Whitman game, but I'm not sure Worcester has the pace or the depth to hang with Whitman in a game like that.
Yeah. Bob?
I'm going to buy on Worcester because Dave started this show and I was his guest and he was on AOL Instant Messenger. We were buying out.
Oh my gosh!
I bought stock in Worcester and Walmart back in 2000, and they're both still good today. And Worcester is always good, and they always get better as the season goes on. They're as well coached as anyone in Division III. They have a young team, and I'm buying on Worcester.
Nice reference. I by the way, miss AOL Instant Messenger. It worked very well for the show.
I do too.
I'm selling. I don't think they can get through this gauntlet. They may get one win out of that group, and maybe I'm being a little harsh with it. But Whitman, Sul Ross, Ohio Wesleyan, New Jersey State, maybe they get a split, but I'm selling. And I think the luster has been gone. But Bob, you make a good point that they've been consistent. Scranton, 7-0, fast start. They will cool off. Maybe will they cool off in conference play? They got some decent Mid-Atlantic wins. Widener, Cabrini. They did lose to Stevenson. York's win now maybe isn't as great. Could go undefeated into 2019 potentially. I will add they got 4 guys in double figures as well, and we'll start with Bob.
Scranton, strength of schedule per Massey, number 200 in Division III. put Scranton at Illinois Wesleyan's schedule, and they have 4 losses right now. I am selling on Scranton. Sorry if you're a Scranton alum.
There's a lot of people who might start throwing things at you. Ryan?
I'm going to buy, maybe not for a national picture, but for sort of a down mid-Atlantic region this year. It's a strong team. They're really young. Coach's son, another freshman that we're looking at across the country, Ethan, I think, Danzig. Really strong player. They're going to get better. They don't have a super difficult conference. They don't have a super difficult schedule. I think they can have a good record, and the team's well coached, and maybe give somebody a challenge in the first round.
I will buy that they're going to probably get some top 25 love and more of it. I'm going to buy that they're going to probably at least reemerge out of the Landmark Conference, though we all know the Landmark has never lived up to its hype or what we expected out of it when it formed. But I'm kind of with Bob a little bit too. I don't sell that this is a national power. I think they just happen to end up in the top 25. This one's going to sting a little bit. Illinois Wesleyan have lost 3 straight in the CCIW. Arguably, Rose is a good guard, but Francis is absolutely outshining him right now out of Wheaton. Tough time to hit a 3-game slide. Bob, by the way, they're number 10 on my top 25 from last week, and I'm very much considering removing them. Bob, I'm going to start with you since it's your alma mater, sir.
Disclaimer, I've been a chat board poster with the handle of Titan Q since 1998. I'm going to reach over here. I've got a piece of the Fred Young Fieldhouse floor.
Oh, nicely done.
And I run a Twitter handle that's at IWHoops.com, and I was the color commentary voice for WJBC for 10 years. So I'm not neutral party here. Unfortunately, this week, and I'm a top 25 voter, let's close your ears, Titan fans. I'm selling on the Titans for this week until they can learn to cover the guys that are shooting the basketball. Had they won the game last night, you say to yourself, look, they played right with Augustana to the final seconds. They lost to Aston Francis at the buzzer, and otherwise they're whatever in 2. But you lose to Carroll, you lose 3 in a row, and at home. And so I'm not going to vote for the Titans this week. But I tell you what, I'm going to hold a long position in Illinois Wesleyan, and we're going to see where this thing goes in mid-February. Because to be honest, guys, they're as talented as they're probably like top 7, 8 talented. They just have had a lot of defensive problems. So we will see where this goes, but I'm not voting for it. I'm selling. Sorry, Ron Rosen.
Ryan.
So I will. I'll surprise everyone. I'm buying. I still think they're going to figure it out. Like Bob said, there, Wheaton and Augustana performances. They were losses, but I thought they were pretty good. Carroll is just unexcusable at this point, but it happens from time to time. I'm a big fan of Alex O'Neal. I think he's going to be one of the best players, but in the country by the time that his career is done. I think he's got everything it takes to be a really good big man, and he's going to figure it out. They've got this Whitman-Stevens Point thing coming up on the schedule that will be interesting, but I still think we'll see IWU there at the end of the year.
That's the great thing is that the fact that they play Stevens Point and Whitman here in the next couple of weeks. We'll get to judge where the Titans are. And in the meantime, Ryan, I'm going to send you this piece of the Fred Young Fieldhouse floor that you have bought on the Titans. Thank you very much for that.
By the way, we got a comment from Jay Cozen regarding our Scranton comment. It says, Ronk just broke his computer screen with Bob's comments. Ronk being a huge Scranton fan.
Hey, at least you're undefeated. I mean, you play a terrible schedule. At least you're undefeated, Scranton fans. So it's all good. Right. I also apologize to anyone that loved the show The Office. I think that was set in Scranton, so I don't want to offend anybody at this point. Thank you.
By the way, I'm a soft sell on the Titans. I agree. The loss to Carroll, I think, was inexcusable. The fact that it was a battle was surprising. I don't know what's going on. I just feel like you're right, Bob. Defensively, they're just breaking down, which is surprising. I'm a soft sell. I'm also a soft sell because I am not a fan of the gray uniforms.
They had an alternate uniform last night. They wore gray uniforms. I remember a day when even the non-alternate uniform was not very good at all. So to have an alternate now, this is a very fancy day.
Yeah, they're throwing everything at the works. All right, Oswego State 9-0, still undefeated. At 4-0 in the conference as well. Wins over Nazareth, Geneseo, Brockport. Of course, remember, Brockport beat Plattsburgh. Next up, they got Emory on the 29th and Denison on the 30th. Ryan, start with you.
I'm buying right now. I voted for him last week. I'll be voting for him again this week. Some of those wins looking a little different. Nazareth got crushed today.
Yeah.
Not sure what to make of that game because Nazareth brought everybody back from last year, and that was a really solid team. So not sure what's going on there. It makes Oswego look a little different, but I'm still buying them for now. Great coach, strong roster. I think they brought in a transfer who's starting, shooting the ball really well, spreading the floor. They've played every game well. They haven't had a weak outing yet, which to me at this point in the season speaks volumes. I'm buying.
Bob?
Strength of schedule. Let's talk about this one, guys. 306. It'd be hard to have a strength of schedule any worse than that without being in high school at this point. So, guys,
It's just got hot in here.
And I am selling on Oswego State, and I would like to see them come into, let's say, Wisconsin Whitewater and play a game. So for now, I'm going to go with a little Midwest D3 bias and say sell.
Of course, Oswego doesn't have to go into Whitewater and play until, the Final Four. So
out east, they drive the limousine up to those schools and take them right on to the Final Four. So that's great.
That said, I do know how difficult it is to get in and out of Oswego if there's a good winter lake effect storm going on. I'm selling too. Jason Leon's going to kill me. I've seen this before out of them. Great start, fizzle at the end when they get into conference play. I want to see more before I'm willing to buy. I've gone down this road. I'm not convinced. Okay, great, they beat Brockport, but that was before Brockport beat Plattsburgh, so I don't know what to make of that. They did beat Nazareth, but as you said, Ryan, Nazareth game means nothing now. The Geneseo game doesn't mean anything to me. I'm selling for now. That said, Jason, you still have a wonderful wife who is very pleasant, and we've discussed that before on the show. Here's a good one, a little bit different. Wesleyan, they're 5-3, one of the top teams from last season. Obviously, one of the teams you were watching in the NESCAC, but slow start. Losses to Nichols, which not bad, but Eastern Connecticut State and a loss to Williams. They've got Plattsburgh coming up in Miami later this week. Bob.
I am buying, and they're going to win that game against Plattsburgh, and we're going to be talking about them. I am buying Wesleyan.
I did not buy them last year, and they lost 3 players to graduation, so I'm still pretty skeptical of Wesleyan. I'm going to sell at this point. That conference has just gotten better, and I don't think they have, so I'm not sure how they're going to make it out of there.
I love my father dearly. He's a Wesleyan grad. I am selling. I just don't see it coming together. I think the Plattsburgh game is going to be telling, but I am also starting to not be as high on Plattsburgh. I haven't really been high on Plattsburgh to begin with. So, I got them in my top 25. I just don't have them in that top 15 group that I think's the top tier. A couple more, and then we'll be done here. Loris, 8-1, won 4 straight. Obviously, have a win over Augustana. Interesting enough, they have a win over both Augustanas this year. They beat D2 Augustana as well. They have Whitewater on the 21st. The big one that is circled on the 5th, Nebraska Wesleyan. Ryan?
You're letting me start. I feel like Bob had some really great things to say about them at the beginning of the season. I think Loris is good. This is a tough one for me because I'm not sure they're as good as maybe they've come across. Whitewater coming up, I'll be really interested to see how they perform in that one, but I think I'm going to sell at this point. If they're playing Scranton's schedule, maybe I'd be buying, but I don't know with what they've got.
Bob.
Well, first of all, like I've done the last 15 years or so, I'm going to clean up some fake news from Dave. They have not played Augustana Division II.
They did? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I had them down for that.
It was an exhibition. They beat them in an exhibition game.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I don't count the exhibition. So
I know, but it was good fodder here. Come on.
Like in real games, I'm saying guys, I'm driving the bus. I'm driving the Loris bus right now. I'm buying, and I'm telling you that they will be an Elite 8 team this year. They have no holes. They have everything you want in a team that could go really deep, and I'm buying on Loris.
Wow.
We'll give you that. I do think they are a team without holes. I want to see a little more consistency in play. Some of these games have been a little too close for me. I've watched a fair amount because they're on pretty late. I want to see them play a little more consistent.
And to be fair, they actually did beat the Division II Augustana in an exhibition, and that's a big deal. So I just think they're really good guys. I know that the kids they recruited out of Chicago that are playing for their team and other places, they are legit. They were recruited by a lot of guys, and they are talented.
I'm buying as well. I like what I see in Loris. Yeah, they lost to Dubuque, but come on, it's a rivalry game. I like what I see in Loris. Elite Eight call is interesting considering how the bracket could be formed. They may have to run in Nebraska Wesleyan for all we know, just because of geography. But that's an interesting call to be sure. All right, last one. I'm going to give you gentlemen.
The bigger question if they run into Illinois Wesleyan in order to get that far, what Bob will think then.
You guys play the tape back when they get to the Elite Eight. Let's have a little feature on the show where we say this is what Bob said on December whatever today. Let's do that.
We'll also re-air the tape where he sold on his alma mater, just for the record.
Thank you.
Last one. I'm going to give you a choice: a team that we've talked about over the years in New England, or a team we haven't talked about out of the SCAC.
I don't want to talk about the SCAC, Dave.
I don't know anything about either one of those, but let's just roll with it, Dave. Why don't you just tell us who we're going to talk about?
All right. We will go with WPI. 9-0. Beat Tufts and Salem State. They've got Maryville, MIT, Babson on the horizon. And Ryan, because you didn't want to talk about SCAC, I'm making you talk about WPI.
Okay. So, great coach. They've had a good history of being a quality team. They've got some wins that look okay so far this year, but the schedule has been... I'll wait for Bob to bring up what their strength of schedule is right now.
He's been doing that as you've been talking.
Yeah. They have not played anyone even remotely indicative of anything. So I'm going to sell for now, but I have a feeling in the back of my mind they might actually be pretty good. It's a tough conference they're in, so they have to be good if they're going to come out of it.
So for me, I'm just going to say that I know that we pronounce it Worcester Poly and not like Worcester Poly. So that's a thing.
You do eat Worcestershire sauce, right?
Worcester.
So Worcester Poly. I'm going to buy on WPI. I voted for them last week, actually.
Ooh.
Sometimes you take a little bit of flyer on a team. Now, again, their strength of schedule is 281. So all of the good people in Scranton and wherever that other place was that had the awful strength of schedule are going to be mad at me right now. But I'm
Oswego.
Oswego fans. I'm going to buy on WPI for no good reason other than I know how to pronounce her name. Thank you, Dave.
I want to buy because I want a really good burger at Mr. Bartley's Burger Cottage, in the brother of the head coach of WPI's establishment in Boston. But I'm a little bit of a sell. I don't think they've played many. Tufts isn't the team we thought or has been. Salem State's nothing to write home about. Maryville's not going to be much of a team to talk about when it comes up. Babson, okay. But it's at MIT and it's Springfield, who I think is going to really ruin WPI's day. And WPI hasn't shown that they can go the whole season, no matter how hot a start has been. I know that's the past, but that's where I got a base on. So I'm a bit of a sell on WPI. I'm going to throw this one in because I wanted to anyway. Louisiana College, 7-1. Can they keep it up? They're 4-0. And I said SCAC. I was mistaken. They're ASC because I'm just running out of brain power tonight.
I thought you were going to throw Johnson and Wales Denver at us, and I was a little worried.
Oh, no, I wasn't going to throw them to you. Bob, I'll start with you. Louisiana College, I did kind of look into them a couple days ago when someone asked me a question about them. Interesting start. They got some decent wins in there, but what's your take?
I'm going to buy on them, Dave. I really like their point guard, their two guard, their small forward, their power forward, and their I think they pass the ball really well. They share it well. They shoot it well. They defend well. I'm going to buy on Louisiana College right now.
Folks, that is slang for Bob. Didn't have an answer, and he just decided to cover all his bases. Well done, sir.
I like him.
Ryan.
I'm selling.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple other teams in that conference that I like a little bit more. Maybe they don't have the same kind of record. But I just haven't seen enough out of Louisiana College just yet. I want to see a few more ASC games.
Yeah, same with me. I'm selling because I want to see more games. I think there's teams in there that are going to give Louisiana College a wake-up call. So I'm selling Louisiana College. All right, on that note, we wrap up buy and sell. We'll get back into this. We'll do this every few weeks. I think it's actually kind of fun. Get both your takes. Goes a little longer. That we'll find a way to trim it down. But I don't want to leave you guys without getting top 25 points of view from guys who are going to be hitting the ballot here shortly. What do you think we see? There weren't a ton of games. We do have a lot of games coming up. Does Illinois Wesleyan drop out of the top 25, for example? What else do you guys see? Bob, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think Illinois Wesleyan, again, probably drops out of the top 25. I think one game could make a huge difference, and losing at home to Carroll is maybe different than losing on the road. I think the Titans probably do fall out. I think you've got to sort out the order in the Wisconsin Conference. I like Oshkosh as the highest-ranked team there. I like Whitewater as the second highest team. You got to figure out what to do with Stevens Point after the loss to St. Thomas, of course. And you've got to figure out, I guess, the NESCAC. Williams seems like a safe top pick, but Hamilton's right there. That's kind of what I'm looking at right now. And I've got Loras, again, because I'm driving the bus. I have them a lot higher than everyone else does. But that's just me.
Ryan?
Yeah, I was surprised going through my ballot today that some of these teams that lost this week I did not drop as far as I expected. I guess maybe I had them a little more well-placed that our overall poll does in my mind, which makes sense because it's my poll. But, yeah, I'm not sure Illinois Wesleyan dropped all the way out. They lost half their points last week. 200's a lot to lose. Maybe they'll go all the way. The one big thing I'm looking for is what happens with Rochester. I'm not sure that one loss is going to make as big a deal, but it really could. So that's the one I'm looking at to see where Rochester ends up.
The other team I think could be higher than even 10 is Marietta. Like if I look at Marietta right now as a team that could be nearing the top 5. Now it takes some losses probably to get them up there, but I think they're really good. I've watched them 3 times and I'm really impressed. So, we'll see where they shake up.
Yeah, I've had them in the top 10 the last couple of weeks. I think that they're really good, and a lot of it's chemistry because it's a lot of the same talent they had last year, and they're just playing together a lot better.
17 points. I think Illinois Wesleyan may lose out of the poll for me. I might pull them. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see where Bob, I agree with you about the WIAC, except I don't agree with you with Whitewater. I think Point may be better than Whitewater, but that's just because I'm waiting for Whitewater to show me a little bit more. I'm kind of lost on Whitewater. I'm going to be moving Loras up. I actually made a move last week. I moved Augustana ahead of Whitworth last week after Augustana's week, including the win over Illinois Wesleyan. I think Augustana is a deeper, more threatening team than Whitworth. Whitworth, I'm worried about their bench. I don't see my what?
Whitman, Dave? Whitman?
Whitworth. I moved Whitworth. I moved Augustana to 2, Whitworth to 3. I've got Whitman sitting in 5.
That's interesting. Okay, I like Augustana as like number 2.
Yep.
Like lock solid number 2. They look great right now, and they're another team. You talk about like all the pieces. There's no gaps. There's no problems. I think Nebraska Wesleyan's 1 and Augustana's 1A in my book.
Yeah, I had Augustana 3 for a week. I think it came off the loss. Actually, after the loss, I moved them up because I dropped Whitman. Everybody lost that top 5 except for Nebraska Wesleyan for me, and I thought Whitman's loss was worse. But when I reevaluated and looked at Whitworth and looked at Augustana, as good as Whitworth is, I don't think they're as deep, and that's why I did move Augustana to 2. I don't see myself making any changes until I get down to Stevens Point, and I've got them in the 8 hole. I got to reassess that. But then I've got teams that are floating high that I feel nervous about. Listen, Marietta's good, but I'm nervous about them. MIT hasn't been at 100%. I feel like I'm overselling Wittenberg. Is St. John's really good? It's amazing how you get to that 10 to 15 slot and then everything just kind of blows up and becomes a mess.
Well, you get paid the big pull bucks, Dave. That's
yeah.
Why you're the host of Hoopsville, baby.
And I believe Dave promised a blog explaining his ballot this week too. So you got to think about that. I'm
kind of in trouble on that, aren't I?
The best thing about Dave's blog is that I love taking pot shots at it, even though I'm not on Twitter again. I like to kind of take little jabs at pull. So I can't wait to see that come out, Dave. Thank you.
See, here's the best part. You do that. I just know the entire time you agree with me.
I do. I like to poke the bear a little bit, Dave. Sorry.
Hey, gentlemen, I really appreciate you coming on. This was fun. A longer segment than I thought, but it was fun, and I enjoyed it. We'll do it again in the future for sure. It is the last time we'll have you guys on before we take a break and the holidays, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll give you guys the final word. Ryan, we'll start with you with the final word.
I just want to, again, draw attention to what happened, not just the injury last night, but the way that both teams responded to that. It's a scary thing to see somebody get hurt in that way, especially when you're a fellow basketball player on the court. And it was visibly tough for all those guys, but the way that the whole community came together and then they helped him out. And I believe I saw on Twitter that Aiden Cheng made it to North Central practice today. So best wishes there, and hopefully has a full recovery.
Wow, made it to practice. That's stellar. By the way, again, to reiterate, they basically took shot clock violations, both teams, to run the clock out. Which is stellar in my opinion as well, that both teams just like forget it. By the way, North Central did not sub in for Chang either.
Yeah.
They played 4 men on the floor just as a tribute. I don't want to bang the injury, but I've used a reference that reminded me of the Louisville injury from 2013. I just don't remember the guy's name, but yeah, hats off to both programs. Bob?
Yeah, same thing. Last night was one of those moments where you realize there's a lot more going on than just conference standings or wins and losses and stuff. When you see a kid that gets injured in that kind of fashion, and you see how both teams handled it. I saw a lot of photos from the game. The kind of the prayer huddle with both teams puts things into perspective. I think that both teams handled it very well, and Aiden Cheng has already been tweeting today and. Like you said, Ryan, it sounds like he actually went to practice today. It'll be kind of an inspirational thing for the North Central Cardinals the rest of the way. And it's just something that puts it in perspective. So I look forward to seeing how that plays out.
Agreed. Gentlemen, happy holidays. Thanks for taking the time to come on the show. I really appreciate it. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, Dave. See you guys. See you, Ryan.
All right. Thank you.
See you guys. Ryan Scott, Bob Quillman joining me here on the show. Nice to have both of them here with us tonight. With that, we're going to wrap up the show. A little longer than we expected. Technical difficulties as well. By the way, WPI, I still want to get a nice Bartley's burger, so please don't hate me for that. And with that, we'll sign off. Thanks, everybody, for coming on. For New England College, Charlie Mason for appearing on the show. From Manhattanville, Kate Vlahakis. And from Oglethorpe, Alex Richey. And, of course, the sports information director is Nicholas at Oglethorpe. At Manhattanville, I want to thank Alex and his staff. And at New England, I knew I was going to do that. There was going to be that one SID I can't memorize a name for, and now I got to look it up. Kenneth at New England College. Thank you for your help. And with that, we'll sign off. We'll be back Thursday, 2 o'clock Eastern. We will do this buy and sell with Gordon Mann. It'll be pre-taped. He's not available on a Thursday afternoon. But 2 o'clock Eastern, we'll have more guests. We'll have Gordon Mann do a buy and sell for us, and we'll get you wrapped up from the first 6 weeks of the season. You've been listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. Of course, our thanks to the Women's Basketball Coaches Association and the National Association of Basketball Coaches for their assistance as well. You've been listening to Hoopsville. If you have any plans to re-air this in any way, shape, or form, we don't mind, but please just contact us so we can formally thank you and give you permission, as Hoopsville is owned by Hoopsville, Dave McHugh, and DMAC Productions. With that, have a good rest of your evening and enjoy the week of basketball ahead of Christmas. Good night, everybody.